Hi everyone, thanks for tuning to Keegan Times. On this episode, we have a wonderful and talented guest. We have the legendary entertainment powerhouse and multimedia genius, businessman, author, producer, artist developer, and the king of publicity, Angelo Ellerbee. Angelo is a true definition of pioneer, legend, and leader. Angelo has had a sensational and illustrious career. Angelo has represented and worked with some of the most iconic superstars on the planet from a wide array of clientele, including Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, DMX, whom he managed, Mary J. Blige, Melba Moore, Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, Tyrese, and that's just to name a few. Angelo is the founder and president of Double Xxposure, which is a media relations and a full service public relations marketing and artist development firm. Welcome, Angelo, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Wow, what an introduction there, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank
You're
you for having me as a guest on the show.
No, you're a legend. You're a true powerhouse, and I'm grateful to have you on this podcast. All right, tell me, how's it all been going over there?
Everything is going really well. Everything is great. The business after 55 years is doing extremely well. It's keeping us very busy. I'm very excited about my new venture, which is my book, Before I Let You Go. And the book is not about, everybody thinks this book is about the music industry or the performing arts, but it's about the layperson. It's about the person who's coming out of jail. It's bad at women, bad at men. I just give people a platform, my platform to my winning results, understanding that it takes many chances for us to get it right. Never was about getting on the elevator or getting on the escalator or trying to expedite my career. I took the steps, step by step. I learned. I worked for this two-time Grammy Award winner. His name was James Ntume. Ntume wrote all of the songs for Stephanie Mills and for Roberta Flack and Phyllis Hyman. And he was my mentor. He taught me all the who, what's, the whens, the wheres, and the whys of the music industry, and I'm very thankful for it. And what was really important, he always talked to me about community and about giving back and about mentorships and inspiring the next individual. And so that's why this book is what it is, why it is. I think that as we are mentors for every sector of human beings, we deserve to give them the kind of encouragement and the advice and the counsel that our mothers, our fathers, and our loved ones gave to us. So that's what the book is about. It's about the next level of life.
Incredible. And tell me about your other books too, because you've written, I believe this is your fourth book. Tell me about the other books and I guess the process of that. And obviously this is now concluding that or following from it.
Sure, my first book was with Judith Reagan. It was with Reagan Books, and it was called What's Your Excuse? I always question people who talk about what they want to do as a career or how they didn't do what they wanted to do. And so I asked the question, what's your excuse for not defining your own success and your own goals? Why did you not reach the apex of your success? There should be action. The same time that it takes for you to win in a race, it's the same time that it takes for you to lose in a race. So why would you not give yourself the opportunity to win in the race? To take the time to understand whatever your chosen field is, that you work on it, that you develop it, that you become comfortable in your willingness to be successful, however you go to define success. That's what that book was about. It was about really teaching them, again, about the who, what's, whens, and wheres and whys of reaching and obtaining your goals. And that was the first book that I did that was really directed to the music industry because I saw so many young people being ripped off, and I seen so many young people who did not have the colors or the kind of knowledge to really succeed in the music industry. This is not a kind industry. It's kind when you know it, just like anything else. A math problem, calculus is not good for someone that doesn't get into math, right? Until you learn it and understand it. So that book was really about, the steps of really finding yourself how to look for a manager, what is the accountability of your taxes, was giving them the mere fundamentals. And I took it from my 24-week artist development program that I created, and people like Mary J. Blige and Alicia Keys went through. Because I think it's really important that we begin to educate these young artists about the business, not necessarily in the talent area. They got the talent, but they become successful in talent, but they don't come successful in finances. So I'm really into them understanding what publishing rights is, their royalties, their taxes. Those are all the real important things for me. And that's what the first book was about. Now, the second book was called Axe Angelo. Dionne Warwick Axe Angelo, DMX Axe Angelo, Alicia Keys. And I gave no more than examples of my teachings or the experience that we learned together. And I like doing things together. I don't like to be the teacher and the orchestrator all the time. I like for you to tell me of what you're going through, how we can resolve the problem. That's another part of mentoring them and teaching them and getting them to trust you. There's a big question mark on trust in this performing arts, in this music industry. But what's really more important for me about not away from teaching, but inclusive, is to getting them to really understand business. And it's not about you bringing, that's taking from your bank. That's called recoupables. I used to go with artists and they would bring 30 people for this. The record company, no, the record company is not paying for anything. You're 30 mils, the cars that you have. So it's all about a process. Everybody thinks that this, and young people who are entering into this industry thinks that the record company is going up. No, the record company is called recoupables. What you put in is what you get out. My third book was called The Sense of Success. And I also did a candle line over that book too. It was called The Scent of Success. And the book was called The Sense of Success. It was all about motivating them, all about guiding them, about taking them to the next level, getting them to understand what you put in again is what you get out. I think where my goal in my life is, because I had so many great mentors in my life, is to give back and to be very open and very transparent with my clients and with people who just come to me on a one-on-one about this business and how you have to interact and how you have to act in this business. It's really important for me to give my time and my energy. I do master classes, I do with whoever comes to me to ask me a question or want to spend time with me. It's important that I do that, man. It's important. Now we're talking about Before I Let You Go, which is the fourth book and the last book.
How long how long does it take you to write a book?
Well, this particular book took about 4 to 5 months. I do have someone that works and collaborates with me. And so we meet 2 days out of the week, on a Saturday and on a Monday. And I deliver, we have conversations, we talk, and I deliver my points and directions that I want to go into, like branding and marketing. And I break it down and they come back and they deliver it back to me. And then we scrutinize it and we tear it apart. And then we eventually come up with that book. And I'm excited about this book, though.
Incredible. You know, everything you've done in your career is incredible. You just, as I mentioned at the start of it, you just, yeah, it's remarkable. All
You
right.
know what it is, Nick, for me is I came up a hard way. I mean, I didn't come up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I really had to earn my way and position myself to win. And so I always say, you have to put yourself around positive thinking people. You have to put yourself around smart people. Because when you do that, you become the same as you emulating. It's so very important when I was growing that I listened and listened and listened and listened. But I don't think a lot of the kids today want to do that. They don't want to listen. And I'm not doubting their abilities to want to listen. I'm just simply, a lot of the people that have come my way, young individuals, believe that they know it all. And when I was growing up in this industry, I knew nothing. And I was very transparent. I wanted to learn everything. And even if you know, you should listen to someone else's direction. So you have something to measure and to go by. It's really, really hard for me to not surrender myself to young people and old people alike. I think that it's just a humanistic job to share what gifts that has been given to you. I think you got to give it back. What do you take it? You don't take it anywhere. So you have to keep giving it out. Now, the portions of the proceeds from this book is going to homeless shelters and young HIV positive victims. What we're doing, we have established the Angelo Ellerbee Foundation. And what that's going to do, that's going to give 4 to 5 people for 1 year housing. They get housing for the whole year. We give them 4 meals a day. And then we select, along with them, what schools and what training that they want. And this is going to be my first year in doing it. And that's why I think this book is really important. It's not the sell of the book, even though the money from the book is going to help to push forward the foundation so that these things can exist. It's really important for me that no one is afraid. I don't think that anyone should be afraid of living in life. I think that we all have bad experiences, but we can correct them. I really believe that God has given us so many chances We should have the rights to give people chances as well. That's just my way of living my life.
It's wonderful. And you're giving so much. All right. Tell me about being in the entertainment industry and specifically, I guess, the media relations part of it. What has been, when looking back in your career, the biggest lessons that you've learned when you first started or came into the game to where you are now? What are the things that really you look back and go, wow?
What's really funny, Nick, is that I never knew nothing about publicity. I didn't know a damn thing about it. My degree is in fashion design.
Right.
And I used to do a lot of shows and a lot of custom evening wear. That's what I did. And then there's a young lady by the name of Camille Mtume, which was the wife of the Grammy Award winner. She was a designer. And she used to come to my shows and she would see my collections and it goes on and on and on. And she came and asked me if I would consider to do an album cover for her husband. Well, back then I didn't know who her husband was. He said, Mtume. I said, oh, yeah. I didn't know who the hell he was. But I did the album cover and Mtume and I started to work together. But he said, you're going to have to be my publicist. And I was like, well, what the hell is a publicist? He said, he counted out $100. He said, go to the store and buy $100 worth of newspapers and bring it back to me. And then he started to explain what it's going to take. We were working on a film. It was the first major motion picture that Oprah Winfrey ever did, which was called The Native Son. And Mtume was doing the soundtrack for the movie. And so he needed a publicist. So I bought all these newspapers. He started to talk to me to tell me what I needed to do. He says, it's going to be a lot of phone work, a lot of follow-up. I said, Mtume, I don't know if I want to do this. He says, it's not about what you want to do. It's what you're going to do. You have to learn. You have to have options in life. You have to have options. You can't just think you're going to do the same thing the rest of your life. So I would get down, because we worked in Mtume's basement of his house. I would get downstairs in the basement and I would start to make cold calls. Cold calls, I mean, they're always nasty to you. They hang up on you, So I called over to the New York Times. And this lady's cough. She kept coughing. She had told me what her name was, but she kept coughing. It was like she was sick, whatever. And I kept trying to talk to her. And then she says, well, call me tomorrow. And she hung up. But I got her name. I got the address. And I went out to the drugstore and I bought 40 packages of cough drops. I put them in a gift box. I put a bow on it. And I overnighted it to the New York Times. The next day, she called. And I go, she says, is this Angelo? I said, yes, ma'am, this is Angelo. She said, that was such a kind gesture. Can you send me more information about your... Nick, she gave him a full-page spread in the New York Times. It's about relationships. You have to really, and you have to take the time. Sometimes people are going to be nasty. Sometimes people care about that. You want to make sure you get what you rightfully, why you call them. From the New York Times, and it goes from on, and it just started to build. And so that was back in those days and times, there really wasn't no computers. I mean, if it was, you had to be very filthy rich to have one. You really had to research. You had to you had to go to the library, you had to read, you had to find out. It's a little easier now. Back when I started this some 55 years ago, it was like grassroots. You had to work at it. And that's what I tell the kids today. Don't I don't I tell people that I've never taken the escalator or the elevator. I always took the step. I wanted to learn and have an appreciation for each particular manner or each particular situation that I was going through. I learned. It took a long time, but I got it. And I try to give it back out. That's what's really important for me, that I give it back out and that I give people a chance. I've had people to come to work for me and they had not a clue. But I got to remember, Nick, that when I went to work for M2, I didn't have a clue. It was about giving back and taking time and helping to develop them. And I don't like people working for me over 6 years. You learned, go and grow. Go do your own thing. Go copy me. Go be original. That's real. I mean, I don't want nobody around me 20 years, 10 years. Go and grow. Do different things. So that was my beginning. That's how I began in doing publicity.
Tremendous. You worked with some of the most iconic artists, and for example, DMX, you and managed. What were those experiences like? And do you have any? Yeah, can you elaborate, I guess, on working and managing those artists and giving publicity?
Well, it was challenging. If you're talking about DMX, right?
Yeah, DMX.
It was very challenging. My first go out, my first year was very, very challenging. But I had to sit back, really examine what I put myself in and what I committed myself to do. And then I had to study the individual. And I did study the individual, why he was a hard deliverer of content in terms of his music. And he was a street person that was knowledgeable about the streets. I had to take my time to study him and understand him. And I did. I found that he was more giving than any person that I've ever met in my whole entire life. He had a heart of gold. So one of the biggest things that he would always ask me, Angelo, did you pay my tithes? So a tithe is where you reach out to churches and you give them a percentage of your salary. That was the most important thing for him. He gave out millions and millions of dollars to churches, homeless people. I remember 5 years in a row, we did something it was something that had to do with MTV, but we went up to a place where he, from 14 years old to 18 years old, lived. It was like a shelter-like. He must have bought $40,000 worth of toys and gifts and presents, and he did this. He used to do this every single year. And he was like, Angela, it ain't all about, getting no press on this. I'm just doing this. He had a heart of gold. But you have to take the time out to understand the individuals that you're working for. I think that you wind up working for the whole entire family. I wanted to meet his mother. I met his mother. I wanted to meet his father. And they were divorced. They were separated. He had a lot of animosity towards his mother. I met his wife, all of his children, because I don't think that as a publicist, I don't think you just position your artists. I think you have to really, really study and understand their makeup and where they come from. I don't read bios. So I have to sit back and have a relationship with you. And I need to find out about where your mother stand and where your father stand and with your wife. Because now I can go and sell you and I don't have to sit back page by page and read a bio. I have relationships with them. I've established a clear understanding with them, and I can go and sell it. And I can become a friend to them as well. And I think that was the key formula, because that's how it worked for him to make back when I was first beginning. It was his wife, it was him. And then I was a nanny, and then I was a cook. I never said no about anything because everything was a learning experience. Today it's just like I'm not going to take it. You have to learn and you have to be open and willing to do what you need to do in order to achieve and reach your goal of life. I did it all. And I wasn't working for money. I went through it. I went through an institution This man for me was an institution, and I felt like I graduated. Gave me my degree in the music, in the entertainment industry. No cost to me, but my time. And X had a heart of gold. People knew that who knew him, and people took advantage of him. A lot of people took advantage of him. I think at the end of the day, he loved very well and he gave very well. He was a sincere artist. He was in love with his artistry. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy though. It was not easy. I was committed. I was committed, and I continued. I think I stayed with him like 5 or 6 years. Yeah, yeah. Was special, missed, and very missed.
Yeah, rest in peace. All right, tell me the story about when you first met Mary J. Blige and the artist you developed. Like that's incredible too.
Oh God, the first time that I met Mary, I was when my office was on 7th Avenue in New York City, and it's a place, 7th Avenue called the Carnegie Deli. It's where everybody goes for these humongous sandwiches, pastrami, corned beef, whatever you wanted. I had a desire and a taste for one of these sandwiches. So Mary had a 1 o'clock appointment, and she was an hour late there to push the elevator to go down to get my pastrami sandwich, right? She said, Angelo here? I look around to the reception, I look around to her. I said, no, but Mr. Ellerbee's here. I said, and who are you? She said, I'm Mary. I said, I am Mr. Ellerbee, and you're an hour late, and we can't do this today. We're gonna have to do this tomorrow. Next day, she was 2 hours early. Think how you start is how you finish. And I always gave out tough love. But the next day, she was 2 hours early. And I took the hour that she didn't do the former day. I just added it and I kept her in there for like 3.5 hours. We just spent time talking about communities where we grew up at, mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers. Because that's what you need is a rapport, a conversation, and you want them to trust you and you want them to, that's what the period was for me. Then we got into reading books. I started off with her reading like the Bible. Because a lot of kids, first back then and now, like reading. My thing is that's a quintessential thing that you have to do. Because when you don't, I would always say to them, so who signed your contract? Go, my manager. I said, so you don't know what's in that contract? I don't know how long your contract is for with your record company. Okay, so let's call your manager and let me ask your manager to send me over a copy of your contract. Let's read it. I would say to them, you finish high school, and they would say, no, not really, da, 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 da. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask my lawyer to break this contract down to a 3rd grade level. 3rd grade, 2nd grade, so that you can understand the commitment that you have made to this record label and to this manager. It's those little fundamental things that become so very, very important that you have to be relatable. I wanted these kids to be able to read, comprehend, and understand what they have committed themselves to.
Wow. All right, please. If you were 18 again and you could go back in time and you could change anything, it could be personally, it can be professionally, what would you change?
Honestly, Nick, I would change the world. I would change the world and make it peaceful and loving, understanding. If I could change anything, I would just change the concept of racism and prejudice and discord. I can change anything. I don't think that we all were put here to hate and dislike, go into communities where we don't understand other communities, where we don't understand religion. I would change the world. What I would do. It's important.
In your career, what has been say, for example, you've had a client and there's been a crisis. What's been the biggest publicity PR crisis you've ever had to deal with, and how did you react? And yeah,
I didn't understand your question there.
okay, sorry. So say you had a client and something hit the roof, so bad publicity came out about the client.
Oh, I had that a lot. I got it now. I had that a lot. It's called damage control.
Right.
I would always say, and I'm dealing with some things now for someone, you start out with a lie, you're going to end up with a lie. I always say to people that are in damage control situations, truth is not on strike. Tell the truth. You tell the truth, you don't have to tell a lie. So don't give me sides of the story. Give me the side of the story, which would be the truth. I don't want to say there's truth, there's your side of the story, there's their side of the story. I say, yeah, okay. Then it's the lie. Lie, it fringes on both sides of the story. Got to begin to, I always say, go back to the scene of the accident. And the scene of the accident for me is always the truth. I dealt with the Michael Jackson situation many, many, many years ago. And that's what I said when I met him. I said, I did call him Mr. Jackson. So can you tell me why is this happening now? He looked at me. I said, I just need to know why it's happening now. And I think it has to start with you telling me the truth. I think his manager or his at that time looked at me like I had four heads. You talking to Michael Jackson this way? Yeah, I am because I want to know what the truth is. And he asked the people that was in the room to excuse themselves, and it was just me and him. The relationship began to develop, and I can come up with a strategy of how I'm going to position this damage control. When we tell the truth, and you're very, very with the truth, go and operate.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's great insights. Angelo, thank you for coming on the podcast. I could talk to you for hours and pick your brains. You know, you're a genius.
I
You're the powerhouse.
appreciate you, Nick. But Nick, I appreciate you, and I thank you very much for this time and me to speak to your followers and your followers there. All I ask that you do for me is keep doing what you're doing for you and for your followers.
Thank you. Yes, sir, definitely. It's incredible, and thank you again for coming on. I hope you have a great day and wish you nothing but the best, my friend.
I wish not the same back to you. Back to you, buddy. Thank you
Thanks,
so very much. Have a
Yeah.
wonderful evening. All right, buddy. Bye-bye.